everyone, Leah here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another helpful beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to go check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll always know when we're posting new content. So, what I'm going to be showing you today is my StormDuo ribbon bracelet. And for those of you who follow on the Eureka Crystal Beads blog, I posted a teaser about this last week, and sorry for the delay in getting it up, but I am filming it right now, and so that means you're hopefully watching it right now. So I'm going to go over first some of the things that we'll be needing. So first I have my StormDuos, and if you've never seen StormDuos, they are a 2-hole bead. And I'm going to show you a nice close-up here so you can see sort of what's up with their shape. And they have just an ever so slight swirly twist to them. So they have sort of an area here that kind of goes concave, and then on the other side of it is convex, and then opposite on the other side. So I have my StormDuos, and the StormDuos, this bracelet in this length took about 44 of them. So that'll give you an average as far as what you'll need. You might need a little more, a little less, depending on how long you need your bracelet. You can also use less and always just make a double loop at the end, and you can have it be adjustable. It's up to you. I also have, of course, my super fun TierraCast button. I love these. We have a wonderful selection of those on the website. I have some Swarovski crystals here. I have 4mm Swarovski bicones in light azure, and I have 3mm Swarovski bicones in crystal cal. Super gorgeous, kind of icy fun color combination. As far as the number of crystals I used in this bracelet, I used 43 of the 4mm, and I used 44 of the 3mm. There's a little bit of wiggle room to that. For example, I used a 4mm right at the end here, attaching my loop. Let me try to get this in focus for you. You could always use a 3mm there instead. So, you know, a little bit of wiggle room as far as some of the ending things. Same thing right here. I used a couple little of those 3mm right up there, but you could always use 4mm. So that just gives you an approximate idea. And then as far as my seed beads, I have a size 11 Toho seed bead. My Yuki is fine too. And I have a size 15 Toho seed bead. Again, my Yuki is fine as well. And we will link you below in the description bar to not only these products, but the exact colors as well, in case you want to copy my color scheme. So again, this is what we're learning here. We're going to learn it in a few different steps. So let's get started. I have a size 12 beading needle because that's what I pretty much prefer to use for everything. It's a little bent, a little well-loved. And I have 6-pound fire line, and I'm using the crystal fire line. I know that's a little tricky with my white background, but I will give you plenty of close-ups against my hand so that way you can see it nice and clearly. So do not fret. Okay, so again, the thing with these StormDuos, actually let me get one on a needle and that can keep it straight for you. You can see how right now my needle is first going into the side that kind of swoops in, the concave side. And then it's coming out of the convex side, the part that's sort of sticking out a little bit bulbous, the swoop out part. And then of course it's opposite when you flip it over. These are a reversible bead, so you don't need a right bead or a left bead. Okay, so that's important to note because that's going to determine how we pick up our beads, is being able to recognize the side that has the concave and the side at that end that has the convex aspect of it. All right, so we're going to be using our 4mm bicones first. Let me get a few of them out here. Oops, a little rollaway bead. All right, and we're going to be using our StormDuos. Those of you who follow us on our website, you'll know that we launched at the same time the StormDuos and the IrisDuos. And the IrisDuos are going to be coming next. That will be a project that I will release next week. I asked you guys at the bottom of the blog on this bracelet whether you wanted me to design something with IrisDuos that was earrings or a bracelet or a pendant, and we got a whole mix of suggestions, but there were a few people that made a really good suggestion, which is the one I'm taking, which is to design a unit and then have that beaded unit be something that could be an earring, or it could be repeated for a bracelet or used, configured into a pendant. So those of you who suggested that idea, kudos, really good idea. So that'll be coming next week with the Iris Duos. But today we are all about the StormDuos. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by picking up, actually first a little stop bead. Just take one of your size 11s, bring them all the way to the end. Work with as much fire line as you feel comfortable with. You will likely have to add on during the project, so don't work with so much that you're pulling for, 10 minutes each time you're making a pass, or you're dealing with a bunch of tangles here. So with the stop bead, I just picked up an 11 and I'm just looping back through it, just like that. And you just pull it, and it just creates a little bit of tension. You can move the bead, but if you have beads that are just gently resting down on it, your beads aren't going to go anywhere. All right, so now our loading order is going to be crystal, StormDuo, StormDuo, and then we repeat that. But again, with the StormDuos, it's important to take note of how we're loading them on. So we're going to start with the crystal, and then again, I'll bring this up close for you to see. Then we're going to pick up 2 StormDuos in a row. Now remember, StormDuos have 2 holes, so I'm going to show you how I picked them up. So you can see my needle first went into the concave part, or the concave side of that StormDuo, and then exited out the convex side, and then entered into the convex side and entered out the concave side. So if we want to be less technical sounding, we went into the swoopy in part, came out the swoopy out part, and then went into the swoopy out part and came out of the swoopy in part. It's just sort of how I kind of made it easier in my head, the way when I would repeat it in my head as I had to pick things up. So that is what we want to keep repeating. So we have another crystal, we go into the swoopy in part and then the swoopy out part. Pick up a crystal, we go into the swoopy in part and then the swoopy out part. I'm going to give you another close-up so you can see what we got going here. All right, so that's what you want to see. Essentially, the StormDuos on either side of the crystal, they sort of look like they're cupping inward and holding the crystal. If you imagine 2 hands that are kind of doing this, that's what you want to see, and then cupping that crystal in the middle. That's sort of the look we're going for. I know that the shape is a little bit subtle, but I know you can certainly see the difference there. Again, there you go. So this is what I'm going to now repeat for the length of the bracelet that I want, keeping in mind that my beaded loop and my button will add to that length as well, so don't go too long. You don't want it necessarily meeting around your wrist, because you're going to have some additional length from those other parts of the bracelet. So I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so we try to lift this up here. This is what you end up with. Sometimes they might flop around a little bit, as you can see towards the left side of the screen, but essentially that's what we're doing here. So these little areas here, right here, right here, right here, we're now going to go down this side and we're going to nest crystals in between those. So you can see how these StormDuos are sort of cupping the crystals on this side. Well, these StormDuos here are going to cup some new crystals. So what I did was I ended with a crystal as well, right there at the end, like that. And I'm just going to pick up a size 15 seed bead, a size 11 seed bead, and a size 15 seed bead. Don't worry, I'll bring this closer. Okay, and I'm just going to go right into the top hole. Come on, focus. There we go. Right into that top hole there. And again, I'll show you another close-up in a second once I pull my thread through. Make sure that all your beads are nice and tight. Don't have any spaces in between them. We don't want anything loose here. Okay, so that's what we have. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to plug in the crystals going down the other side. So I'm going to do a few and then we'll break again. So as you can see, I'm right in the perfect spot to add in a crystal. I'm going to go through the top hole of the next StormDuo and then the top hole of the one right after that. So you're actually going to go through 2 at the same time. Because remember, when we first started, we were picking up crystal and then 2 StormDuos. So going through the 2 loops here, is the equivalent on this side of going through 2 StormDuos. Oops, getting a little bit loose there. Just like that. So I'm going to show you a couple more times. Crystal. Got my crystal on the needle here. I'm going to go through the next 2 StormDuos. Oh, and if you'd like to wax your fire line, you're more than welcome to. Waxing is generally pretty optional, though I do prefer to wax my thread. I find it keeps better tension and also keeps that long tail stuck to the rest of the fire line as I'm getting caught on pretty much everything around me. All right, let me add in another few and I'm going to give you another look and then we will break again. Okay, so this is what we got. And I have to tell you, this in and of itself is a cute, adorable little design. It's an adorable little bracelet if you want something that's a little thinner, a little simpler. So that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going down that other side, plugging in a crystal, and then going through 2 StormDuos, plugging in a crystal, and then going through 2 StormDuos. I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like now that I have all of those other crystals filled in. It actually becomes a nice, substantial filling bracelet. And again, because I'm using StormDuos that are a nice, bright metallic, like you could use a nice bright gold, a nice bright silver, or pewter, it really takes on a very lovely, almost tennis bracelet sort of look. So even this alone is a really lovely bracelet. So we're back at the side that has our stop bead. There we go. That has our stop bead. So what I want to do now is, and that stop bead's going to stay there. That's actually going to get worked into our design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a 15 and another 11. And I'll give you again a nice close-up view. A 3mm crystal. I'm going to go through the loop of my button here, and then a 3mm crystal. And I'm going to slide this all down. Give me a second and I'll give you a nice close-up. Alright, so that little 15 underneath that 11 will help to level that 11 with the 11 that's the stop bead. You can see now that they sit at the same side, or the same height. And then after that we just have a 3mm crystal, our button, and then a 3mm crystal. And now we're going to go down the 11 that was our stop bead. And then the crystal after it. And we'll tighten this up in a second. And I'll give you another close-up in a second. So this is what we got there, if I can give you a nice good view. It's a little loose just so I can kind of turn it and show you, but we're going to end up reinforcing this. So it's not just going to stay just one line of fire line through it. And you can see that little bit of fire line on the outside of our stop bead. What we'll be able to do is, before we weave in the tail, we'll be able to pull that out so that way there's no thread showing. But for now, we'll leave that till the end to do. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to be adding in, if you can see here, there's little groups of seed beads on top of each crystal. You can see in this one, the order is 2 15s, 11, and 11, and then 2 15s. We're not going to be adding them on in that order though. The 11s are actually going to come later, but what we do want to do is add on the group of 4 15s over each crystal. So that's what we're going to do now. Right now, I'm coming out of that crystal there. I'm going to pick up 4 of my 15s. I'm going to loop back around through that crystal. So that way, there we go. So that way my needle is going to pop out the same place that the thread is. Then I'm going to go through those 2 holes of the StormDuos. And then if I can get it, through the next crystal, but I can't. So I'm going to have to pull it all the way through, and then I'm going to go through the crystal. And again, I'll give you a nice close-up of this. once I have it pulled down. So that's what you end up with, that little group of 15s. And then I have to now go through that crystal there too, because that's what you want to go through in the whole pass. Ideally, of course, it doesn't always happen. Your needle doesn't always want to pop through the whole thing. So we're coming out of this crystal, heading in the direction towards the rest of our bracelet. We looped back around with 4 seed beads. We went through the 2 StormDuos, and then now we're going to go through the crystal, so that way we can pick up 4 more 15s and do it all over again. So I'm going to show you that again. Let me get through that crystal here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. Get in there, and then I'll show you a close-up. Going through, you can see going through that crystal, but then we also want to see how much of the next few beads we can go through. Ooh, I got through all at once, yay. So I have the 4 15s here. I looped back around through the crystal I was coming out of, so I'm coming out of it again in the same direction. Go through the 2 top holes of those 2 StormDuos, and then through that crystal. And I do apologize if I don't catch myself and I happen to say SuperDuo instead of StormDuo. I'm not sure if I've already made that mistake. It's just because I've done so much with SuperDuos that my mouth may want to say SuperDuo, but there are no SuperDuos in this project. This is all StormDuo, so just forgive me if that happens. So here's what we got. All right, and now don't worry if your 15s if there's a little thread showing, they're not super tight, and you might be thinking, well, there's room for a 5th 15 in there. Remember, we're going to be plugging in a size 11 there, so that will take up that extra bit of space. So I'm going to do this down the other side, and I'll meet you back in a second. Okay, so let me give you a close-up of what we got here. So you can see that we topped those crystals with little groups of 4 size 15 seed beads. And now we have to set ourselves up to do the other side. And before we do that though, we're gonna actually make our beaded loop. I always try to get my clasp on as early in the project as possible, so that way, if it's a design where I'm making multiple passes, adding different layers of things, each time I reach that end, I can go up and reinforce the area to turn around and go down the other side. So what I've done is I added in, there we go, the last little group of seed beads, of little 4 size 15 seed beads. I added on a size 11 crystal, a size 11 seed bead here. I'm tongue-tied today, folks. I added in 1 size 11 seed bead, and then 1 3mm crystal, and then a group of seed beads that is going to be appropriate for a loop for the button that I have selected here. So that's going to differ depending on the button you choose. I did measure this one, and if you want to use this exact button, this was a loop that is 26 size 11 seed beads long. And that is going to work out perfectly for that sizing, because you want the button to go through easily, but not so easily that it's going to pop out. But you don't want it to be so difficult that you're putting stress on the loop every time you want to take the bracelet on and off. So I have my little seed beads on there. What I'm going to do is now go back down through the crystal and the seed bead, down this side, right like that. There we go. Just let me get in focus there. There we go. So through that little 15, 11, 15, and I'm going to pull that all the way through. You can see my little beaded loop that I get. And now I'm going to go through the top hole of that first StormDuo and the crystal after it, because now we're going to do that same technique going down the other side. So I'm going to show you that first one just as a review. Pick up 4 size 15 seed beads. I'm going to loop back around and then try to go through as much of the next little segment as possible that I have to, which is the 2 StormDuos and the next crystal, and I got it. Just like that. So that way when we pull it all down, that's what we get. And then I'm set up already now to do it again. So I'm going to go down towards the other side of the bracelet, adding in those little groups of 4 15s, and I'll meet you back in a minute. Okay, folks, so I have all of those little groups of seed beads now on both sides. What I did on the other side, get that tail out of the way. So this was the last group that I added of 4 seed beads here. And then I came up here and just followed that little path through. Yeah, it didn't focus for me. So I just followed this little path here through the loop of my clasp to reinforce it. And then I just went down the other side and popped out of the first 2. I went through the first 2 15s of that first group of 4 on the opposite side, so the side that we first did. Okay, so this is where I now am. Just like that. So we went up through that loop holding our button, and then just went down until we were coming out in the very middle of that group of 4. So now is the last layer that we're going to be adding, and this layer is going to be the layer that's going to add in the size 11 seed beads and our 3mm crystals. So I'm going to pick up a size 11 seed bead, and I'm going to go down the other 2 seed beads in that little group of 4, and I'm going to show you what that does. You might ask yourself, well, why didn't you just put that size 11 seed bead in when you did all the groups of 4? Well, the reason is because now it sort of will pop up in a little bit of a point, a little bit more so than it would have had we added it in with the 4 15s as we were adding those. So we'll get nice little points. You can see on this one. See how they kind of stick out a little bit? That's what we're going to get. So it just gives it a little bit of a different ruffly look. So now I'm going to pick up a 3mm crystal, and I'm going to go up the first 2 size 15s of the next little group, and I'm going to show you how that nestles that little 3mm crystal right in there. Just like that. And then it sets us up to pick up another size 11. We're going to go down the other 2. And we're going to pick up another 3mm crystal. Head right up into there. And whoop, pops it right down. So you can see what we're getting here. So I'm going to do just a couple more of these, and then I will come back to you when it's finished. So let's see. So I went up the first 2 15s, down the second 2 15s after I picked up my size 11. And as I get caught around my bracelet, pick up a new 3mm crystal through the next 2. Let's get another one in there, and I'll give you another nice little close-up before we break again. Okay, so this is what we got, that nice little new layer that added in those little 11s and the little 3mm crystals in between. So I will see you back here in a minute with more of this done. Alright, so I got to the other side. You can see all that lovely edging that I added in on that one side. And now we are at the side with our loop again. And this is where I'm coming out. Okay, I just added in that last little 11 right there. So I'm going to go up the size 11 and the crystal that I added previously. And now I'm going to go through my loop, which is going to help reinforce it. You can do some fancier things to the loop if you'd like. You could do some peyote off of it to give it some texture. You could nestle in some 15s now in between each bead if you wanted. Just keep in mind that doing things like that will make your loop tighter, or fit smaller rather. So you're going to want to plan ahead of time if that's what you're going to want to do, so that way you can make your loop a little larger to start with. So that way as it sort of shrinks a little bit, it's still going to be appropriate for your button. Okay, now I'm going down. through there. Okay, so now we have to go and add our design on this side. So I'm going to go down the crystal and down that 11. Of course, I'll give you a close-up of what I'm doing here. And then down the 15, the 11 and the 15, that's also on that side as well. That. We're going to head up into that top hole of that StormDuo. Might get a little bit tight in there, that's all right. There we go. Just like that, going through the top hole of the StormDuo. And then right up into the first two 15s of that first little group, and we're going to continue down the same exact way. So I'm going to nestle in a size 11 seed bead here, go down the other two size 15s, add in a 3mm crystal, and then go up the first two 15s of this next group and just keep going down. So I will come back to you in a minute when it's all done. Okay, so I have made it to the other side. I have my lovely sparkly bracelet all done. I absolutely love this particular color scheme. Both of them are great, but I really love this icy blue, which is really nice. Okay, so I am back at the button side. All I did was I did my embellishments up here and then went through the area with my button again, further reinforcing it, and came down the other side. And now I'm all set just to start to weave out my thread. But the other thing I can also do is I can go to that, what was that stop bead, and focus for me. And you can see that little bit of thread on the outside. I can go in with my needle and I can pull that out, because we don't want any thread showing on the outside. Pull out that thread, and now this is just a tail that we're going to weave in no differently than our main working thread. We just now no longer have that thread on the outside of the stop bead anymore because it's now incorporated into the actual design. So I'll briefly show you how I weave out my threads, and again you just do the same thing on your tail as well. So all I'm going to do is start to tie some overhand knots. I'll do the first one right where I am. And there we go. And focus, I'm just going to dig underneath the thread that's going through the beads that where I'm coming out. Come on, focus. There we go. So you can see my needle's just right behind them. I'm going to pull almost all the way through until I get my little loop of thread here. And then I'm just going to go through my loop. And you just gently pull that knot right down. Just focus right down where it's coming out of that bead. Now I can go through another few beads and do the same thing. So just travel through to another area, go behind my thread that's in the beadwork, pull almost all the way through. I get that little loop of thread, go through the loop, and just pull it down carefully so it closes right where your thread was exiting that bead. And again, I would just go ahead and do the same thing. So all I'm going to do off camera after this video is done is just keep weaving through some little sections of beads, do an overhand knot. Weave through another few beads, do an overhand knot. I want to do about 3 to 5 knots, probably closer to the 5 mark. And then I'll weave just a little bit more before I snip off my thread. And I'll end up doing the same exact thing to this tail. I'll stick a needle on there, and I will weave through a little bit, tie a knot, weave through a little bit, tie a knot, and then weave through a bit more and then cut it off, and then it's all done. So I will do that off camera, but you can see how gorgeous this finished piece is. Absolutely love it. And again, we are going to link you to all of the exact products and colors that I used below in the description box, or if you're looking at this on Facebook, you'll see it actually right above you, I believe, if you expand the text. And yeah, that wraps it up. If you stuck with me this whole way, thank you so much. And thanks for watching. And make sure to visit us on over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com. And hopefully we can take care of all of your beading and jewelry needs. Bye.